Hello, everyone. We'll be starting as soon as I do a little bit of housekeeping announcements. But throughout today's webinar, please type any questions that you have in the box to the right of the GoToWebinar window. We'll read them at the end of the webinar for the presenter to answer, if there's something else going on, we'll communicate individually to you. Welcome to the August installment of the 2015 MAGTUG webinar series. The Mid-Atlantic Geospatial Transportation Users Group has been around for over 10 years, helping transportation professionals stay abreast of advances in geospatial technology. Before we introduce today's presenter, please note the schedule of the upcoming webinars in the 2015 series. In October, just in time for the storm season to begin, will be a talk on how the GIS-based FEMA HAZIS MH can be used to estimate potential roadway impacts by natural disasters, presented by Silvana Krupp of DelDOT. As for December, we are still looking for a project or application to highlight and a presenter to volunteer his or her expertise to lead that December webinar. If you have or know of someone or some accomplishment that fits the theme of the cloud, GIS, and government services, please contact me, Janelle Visaquino, through the MAGTUG website. While you're there, please take time to subscribe to our email list and join the National GIS Transportation Discussion Group. Now on to today's webinar, with the release of 10.2.2 of Collector for ArcGIS in March, data and maps created and stored with ESRI products can be viewed and edited on smartphones and tablets, even when disconnected from any wireless broadband data plan or Wi-Fi connection. There's no need to publish your data to the cloud to allow you to manage your organization's content behind its firewall. Mark Scott is here, the solutions engineer at Esri Boston, to help us discover the tools and techniques to add a fully mobile GIS data interaction to your field survey routines. Take it away, Mark.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, my name is Mark Scott. I work out of the Boston office at Esri, and as a result of our new sort of reorganization of our local government space, I'm currently part of the county team. So I primarily support county government from basically from Maine down through Virginia. And I work with a guy named Matt Martini, who many of you may have already met, and he's one of our account executives. So like any questions about like licensing or our sales type questions, I can hook you up with him. So what I'm going to do here is talk about Collector, and specifically how Collector can be used in an offline mode, and some of the different ways that that you can formulate your workflows when you use the Collector app. I have a few slides that I'll go through, and then I'll start the demonstration. I'm going to collect the questions and try to hit those at the end. I'm going to respect your time and have a hard stop at 10. And you can see my email up here, mscott@esri.com. Been more than happy to field like any questions that you've got as a follow-up, or connect you up with like somebody from our transportation team if you've got specific transportation type questions. And I guess we'll just take it from there. So let me get this thing out of the way. Okay, so just to sort of set up the context, when we started developing applications to be used through mobile devices, a lot of this was driven from the fact that the mobile use with just consumers in general is rapidly exploding. I mean, I really don't have to tell anyone on the call this. I think you probably all know that. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing this becoming more and more pervasive in the workforce. So what people expect is they expect to be able to have the same easy-to-use interface on their iPads or their iPhones or their Android devices and tablets that they have when they're running just like a consumer app. So they want that experience to be the same. So this creates some space that we can create applications that people are going to be able to use and use very easily without being GIS experts. Okay, so one of the first tools that we developed in this space when we wanted to start to build this ecosystem of applications is the Collector app. So the Collector app is just one of these many applications that we've got. I mean, some of you may have experimented with these. Some run on mobile devices, some run on the desktop. For example, we've got ArcGIS Operations Dashboard, which can run like in a browser, or it can run on an application that you download and run on your Windows, on your desktop, your laptop. We've got Collector. We also have Explorer, which is another one that we've got that's kind of, think of it sort of like as a view-only tool, as opposed to today we're talking about Collector, which is about collecting and editing data. With Explorer, we're talking more about just giving somebody like an application they can use to just look at data. So this whole host of applications that are coming out all sort of fall into this app space. Some of you may have heard of Navigator, which is a new one we just came out with. It was announced at the user conference, and that allows you to bind step-by-step navigation tool to like get from your collection sites and and route you through it kind of like you would say with Google Maps. But the difference being that you can add like your own data in there. Maybe you've got like your own street segments or pathways or something that you want to use. So that's one that we're coming out with. So this whole app space is really exploding. It's kind of exciting. So Collector is right now is on iPhone and Android phones and iPad and Android tablets. What I'm going to show you here today is I'm going to be using an iPad, and I'm going to bounce the screen over to my laptop so you can see that. There are plans to develop applications for Windows Phone for those that are working with that. The current development plan is sort of hinged upon what Microsoft is doing at Windows 10. So they're gonna have a rewrite of their mobile platform in conjunction with Windows 10. So we're sort of like hanging back to wait and see how that goes. So we're targeting field data collection. It's free to download and use, but of course you have to have an ArcGIS identity to use it. So what does that mean? That means you have to have a login to arcgis.com. All right, so you have to have a login space, but that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, every desktop user has an identity in the ArcGIS Online space, so that's that should be fine. And then what you do is you want to integrate it in with the rest of your organization. So you have ArcGIS for Server. You want to be able to touch and use those ArcGIS for Server instances. Maybe you want to do some of it with ArcGIS Online. Hey, that's fine too. You can use that. The Collector application is pretty much agnostic to where the data comes from. It could also come from Portal for ArcGIS. So when we talk about ArcGIS Online, that's our cloud-based hosted application space. It's very secure, and you can use that. But you can also use Portal for ArcGIS, and you can think of Portal as being the application space that could sit on your on-premise, on your hardware and behind your firewall, or maybe on one of your virtual servers spun up on Amazon or Azure or something like that. Okay, so the application itself it really doesn't care. You know, that the information and the data can come from pretty much anywhere, and that's the way we designed it. So the administrator or the GIS person in the office is going to set up that web map and set it all up for the collector person in the field, and then they're just going to use it. They don't really need to know like where all that data lives. So like I said, you have to have an identity. So this interface is going to look different depending on what device you have, whether you're on Android or iOS, or whether you're on a phone or a tablet. But basically, all you have to do is you log in So using your user identity, you've logged into ArcGIS.com, and then you access the maps that are shared for collection. For a web map to be accessible and usable by ArcGIS Online, it has to have an editable feature service in it. Okay, so that service needs to have editing enabled, and then if you want to do offline use, which I'm going to show, you have to have synchronization enabled. And I'll show you where you like turn that stuff on and off. It can use the GPS that's on the device to sort of get you in the ballpark of where you are. And then of course you can move the collection point around. You can search addresses and find things. One thing I don't have on this slide deck because it's relatively new is a lot of the data collection companies, GPS companies like Trimble, they've come out with these new devices that can connect to your like your iPad or your iPhone through Bluetooth and give you a GPS quality location, a better GPS quality locations. Okay, so instead of talking about accuracy in terms of meters, we can talk about it in terms of centimeters. So that's pretty cool, and that's I'm actually going to go see one of our business partners out in New York in a few weeks and see this thing in action. It sounds pretty neat. Okay, you can utilize and work with the map just to see like what's there. You can hit a feature that's already there and like see information about it and then edit it and change it. Measure distance. There's all sorts of basic tools. We don't want to make the collector app complicated. We don't want to put a lot of feature functions in it. We want it to be easy to use because when you're out in the field collecting information, that's what you want to do. You want to collect information about assets or edit existing assets. You don't need to have like a million things going on. So we try to keep it really simple. We find a location, we decide do we want to collect there, we click on a feature, we decide if we want to update the information that's on it, and then you work with that. Okay, like I said, you can utilize the location you get from the device, or you can just slide the points around it and utilize the map to get that. Big important thing you want to do is you want to be able to set up domains and subtypes, and for GIS users on the line, you know what I'm talking about. You don't want to have to type in the word destroyed or affected. You want to be able to pick that from a list because you're out in the field. I mean, hey, maybe you're out in it's like February in New Hampshire. It's not a whole lot of fun to be out in the field and like having to take your gloves off and tap stuff in. So you want to be able to have a minimum need to be entering data. Then the other part, of course, is being able to take pictures. So you want to be able to take pictures of these assets out in the field that you're collecting information on. So we interact with the camera on the device, and you can take a photo or video and then attach that. Right? So that's created by using an attachment. So when we set this up, we want to make sure that it's set up in ArcGIS Online, with the web map, and then this web map can point back to either an ArcGIS for Server service that's running on your infrastructure. It could point into an ArcGIS Online service that's up in the cloud, or it could point to a portal instance. I mean, like I said, the app itself is pretty much agnostic to where that data comes from. But it has to be set up into a web map. So you do need ArcGIS Online to do this, but only that you create the web map that has like the base map or the imagery in it, and then it points to wherever that data lives. You then want to share that data. So you want to share it through using a group. Using groups in ArcGIS Online is pretty important as far as working with collector goes. It's definitely like a best practice. So what you do is you set up a group and you say, okay, these are the individuals that I wish to be able to edit this data. I want them to be part of this group. So you probably don't want to like expose the thing to like everyone in the organization. You just want to expose it, say, to the field crews that are out in the field collecting that information. So maybe I set up like in my demonstration, I've got some stuff for catch basin inspection. So because I do a lot of work in our public works group. And so, like, we've been talking to public works departments about this. They want to do like hydrant inspections or catch basin inspections, manholes. So to be able to set that up and then create the named users, put each one of them in a group, and now just that group can use that map. And when you log into Collector, it's just going to show you the maps that you have access to through the groups that you're a member of, and that's a good thing. Like I said, the supported types, it can be in ArcGIS Online, it can be ArcGIS for Server, hosted on your own infrastructure. It can be funneled through a portal if you want. The only key is that it has to be in an editable layer. That makes sense. It's one of the first things I often, when I'm debugging stuff for people, is they'll come in and they'll say, hey, I want to do some stuff here with Collector, and I try to find my map on my device and it doesn't show up. And it just turns out they didn't set up editing on the feature layer, which is, it's a simple thing, but it's an easy mistake to make, right? You can publish this from ArcMap, no worries there. You can use that as a publication device. I'll use that as an example. If you've got data that lives in a shapefile, you can drag and drop it into a web map in ArcGIS Online. That is a workflow. If you've got folks that are going to create these services in the maps and they don't have ArcMap, but you can provide them with like a zipped up shapefile, they can do that. Downside with a shapefile, you don't have access to geodatabase domains and subtypes, so you can't set up those pick lists where you say, I'm going to pick from a list. So that's that's sort of like a downside to that. In the recent versions, we've enabled the ability, however, to add in stuff from a zipped up file geodatabase. So you could set that up in the file geodatabase with all your domains and subtypes, and then compress that, and then drag and drop it in. But I mean, the easiest way to do it is to use desktop. So using ArcMap, or also you can use Pro. I mean, I'm not going to talk a lot about ArcGIS Pro today, but ArcGIS Pro is one of our new desktop applications, and it's totally compatible with publishing data to be used in Collector. So that's where we're moving that forward and going to be adding more and more things to Pro to make that easier. The pop-ups that you create, that's to define the form experience in Collector. So when we make a form, do we want it to have the field names? Like you look in here, it's like if you're, say someone was doing like a damage inspection on residential buildings, do they want to have a field that shows up in the form that says, STR-INSUR for is the structure insured or not? Probably not. You're probably going to want to have like an alias on that column to say structure insured, and then that way that's what the user sees. And you want to make that as easy as possible, again, for the person out in the field who's actually doing the collecting. There is an example of a capability called a location tracking service, and this is available through hosted feature services only. And what you can do is you can like have the device lay down like a breadcrumb trail of like where you've been. And you can go down all the way to like 30 seconds. So like every 30 seconds it would collect a point and drop that into a feature service. So it's sort of like a course level tracking server. It's not like our tracking server, which is like a whole another application, whole other product. But this is something that comes with ArcGIS Online. And so you can like create this thing and just have it like lay that down, and you can sort of see where the field crews have been, or where they're where they did their collection, or like they report a problem and you can see like where they went. Maybe they had to do a detour, and you can see how that goes. Okay, so you set up that capture interval. It can be like as coarse as an hour or as fine-grained as 30 seconds. We automatically capture that and then put it in the geodatabase. The publishing workflows, I think this might be something that you're going to be interested in, so I'm going to make sure to go over this. The hosted approach, which is an option if you want to utilize ArcGIS Online. So for example, you would take ArcMap and you create a hosted feature service in the ArcGIS Online space, create a web map that holds that, share it with a group, and then send your collectors out in the field. So maybe you'd have like 1, 2, 3 people that are all members of this group, and they're going to go out and start collecting that information and the data. Okay, so that's like one workflow. And you'll notice I have here this data copy. The data is copied from your desktop up into the ArcGIS Online space. You can then edit and use it. You can edit that data directly in ArcMap, so it's not like it's up there and it's stuck there and only Collector can see it. That's not a problem. And then what you can do is further down the road, you can pull all that data back down, from ArcGIS Online and integrate it back into your live data. As I pointed out before, you can also copy data into the system if you don't have ArcMap. Most of the GIS users here on the line, I'm sure, like they're desktop users, but using a CSV file, a shapefile, or like I said, you can use a zipped up file geodatabase, you can accomplish the same thing. Okay. Another approach would be to use an on-premise approach. So in this case, I'm using ArcGIS for Server. So I'm saying, hey, ArcMap, I've got this on-premise feature service that I've published into my server infrastructure. I'm then going to reference that service into a web map, put it into a group, and share it with my collectors. Okay, so this is a sort of a different idea here. We're actually using that on our on-premise server. And actually the most common model that we see most of our customers using is a hybrid. And they're leveraging both their on-premise infrastructure with ArcGIS for Server and ArcGIS Online. So some of their services they publish on ArcGIS Online, other ones that they want either to be like updated in real time or pushed out on a more regular basis. They'll put those in server, or some of the other ones that are more ad hoc. Say like I quickly want to just develop like an ad hoc place for me to go out and do some damage information collection. I'll integrate it into my database later. You put that in there. Okay, so you do that with with ArcGIS Online. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at using Collector. So let's see. Let me go over here. All right, so in this application here, what I've got is this is a data set that I was going through with some public works folks in the city of Cambridge, and so this is a small subset of the drainage structures that they've got. And what they want to do is they want to set up configurations for planning and sending out crews to do cleanouts, like in the fall after a big storm. They get a lot of leaves, clogging the manholes. So they want to be able to do that and set that all up. Okay, so their desktop users are professional GIS folks. They're sitting in the office and they've got all this stuff set up for them. So for example, because they're using desktop, they know how to do things like, I'm going to create this domain. So I've got my sewer data and I've got drainage information, and I've created a subtype. And the subtype represents all the different drainage types. I've got area drains, catch basins, drop inlets, dry wells, all these different types. Set that up in a subtype. I've also got domains set up so that I don't have guys in the field having to type out the grade type. I've integrated all the grade types in there. Then we have owners. Is this owned by Cambridge Public Works, or is it actually like a structure that's owned by like a private water utility, or maybe like the Harvard University has like some of their own structures that aren't owned by the city, so that kind of thing. And then the structure type. So that's a domain that ties into my subtype. So hey, I'm a GIS user. I know how to do these things. All right, so I set that all up. The other thing that I set up, as you can see, I've got set up attachments. So I've set up attachments so that I can go ahead and I can collect information, by using my camera. Okay, so you can see how I've already created attachments on this layer in my geodatabase. The other thing I've done is I've enabled editor tracking, because I want to be able to say, hey, the crews that are out in the field, when they log in, they're going to be logging in using their ArcGIS Online identity. So that's going to tell me who went out in the field and like did the inspection or did the clean out or whatever they did. And I want to be able to track that data. So that's great. So I've done all the things that a GIS professional would do, at their desktop, as far as setting that up. And then the next thing they'd want to do is go ahead and publish it. So you can see over here, I'm logged into my ArcGIS Online organization. I'm using one of the many orgs that I've got for demonstration purposes. So this one's, I've logged in as a username called mscott_TUGIS. And this is actually an organization I used at the Towson University GIS conference this year. So that's where that name came from. So I'm logged into that, and because I'm logged in, it's now going to allow me to go ahead and share this data as a service. Okay, so you can see, all right, I want to go ahead and publish this service. So how do I want to do that? Now I'm publishing this on my hosted infrastructure on ArcGIS Online, but I could just as easily use one of my ArcGIS for Server instances. So I have 2 instances running on my laptop. And I also have another ArcGIS for Server instance that's running in the Amazon cloud. That's that one you see that says bossseminar.esri.com. So that's a server instance that's running in the Esri cloud. So I'm sorry, in the Amazon cloud. So it's an ArcGIS for Server instance in Amazon. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use that. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and use the service that the ones that I already created in in ArcGIS Online, and then I'll show you some that are referenced through server. So I've already got one of these called Storm Drain FGDB, so I'm going to give it a different name. And it's going to do several things. It's going to go in and say, all right, does Mark have the right permissions to publish this information? Because that's very important. You know, whether it's on server or whether it's on online, that user has to have permission to go ahead and do the publishing. I want to do feature access, and I want the user to be able to create and delete and update features, so edit data, and also synchronize. So that's really important. Okay, when you see sync, that means I want to enable them to go ahead and synchronize data on an offline space. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then I've got an item description. I decide how I want to share it. You know, am I going to share that with you know, Spotsylvania County, Virginia? So this org I've been using for a demonstration for a county in Virginia early this week, so I just renamed it. But I'm also going to share it with my public works departments. Remember, I was talking earlier about how it's really important to like share that information. So you want to share it with a specific group because those editors are going to be members of that group. So that's how I'm going to do this. I could go ahead and analyze this. It's going to throw me a couple of errors and some other things. It's going to say, hey, remember, you can't publish the imagery-based map through ArcMap. That's not possible. So that's no big deal. You just go ahead and delete it. You know, take that right out. And then I'll go ahead and analyze that again. It's going to give me some other things like, hey, you should think about rendering it different. You should think about putting a scale threshold so you're not drawing all of the catch basins at all scales. And you know, those are all good practices, but I'm going to be lazy here. Just to go ahead and you know, publish that data. So whether I'm publishing this on server or online, it's just going to go ahead and publish it. If this was a place in my ArcGIS for Server instance where it didn't need to copy the data, it wouldn't bother. But in this case, it has to package up the data and push it to ArcGIS Online, so it's going to go ahead and do that. So rather than you have to sit here and watch me go through that, let's just go ahead and take a look and see what that looks like over here in my ArcGIS Online space. Okay, so here's this map that I created, and you know, where did that come from? Well, that came from my content, which I've got published here, and like I said, in this case, this is going to be published in ArcGIS Online. I think I just got the little, yep, the thing came back and said it was published successfully. So that's all done in the background. But you can see here, I've got like these, you know, storm drain feature layers that have been published from ArcMap. I've got another one I published from a shapefile, so I gave that a different name. I have all these different layers that I've published and shared, and I've done that through here. And I've also got this storm drain map that I've got over here in ArcGIS Online. Right, so that's what I did. So I added that feature layer to the map, and then I shared that map so I can now use it with Collector. All right, so just to give you a quick idea of what that looks like. There we go. So because this data has been shared, and you can see I can click on the sharing button. I mean, I did this from ArcMap, but it's going to reflect that here. You know, I can see, you know, do I want to make a new map and share it in a different way? Do I want to create an application for it? There's all these different options that I can have, okay? And I can see how I click on that, and it shows me all the information about the catch basin. You can see that I've put aliases in here, so it's something that looks halfway decent. I've got attachments, so here's like a photograph that somebody took out in the field. So I can be monitoring this back in the office and looking at it. Of course, I also have full edit capability. So, you know, I can go in here and edit this data right here inside of my web interface. I could add pictures. I can do stuff in the office that maybe wasn't done in the field, was missed in the field, or just information that came back later. Somebody marked it up on another plan, and so I can do that. But in the meantime, of course, what I want to do is I want to be able to have my field guys be able to go out and work on this data. So the thing to do there is to send them out with a device. In this case, I'm using an iPad. So I'm bouncing my iPad screen over here to the laptop, and you can see I've got these maps. So I've got, for example, my storm drain map, and I've got another version of the storm drain map. I've got another map I was using with the Harvard University, so we were setting up like this map tour thing where public safety officers could be like entering information in the field about things that were going on. So these are all of the maps that I've got that are available to me in Collector that have editable feature services in them. So just as an example, I could go in here and open up the storm drain map, and you can see that like the user experience, the interface that the user is going to see when he's got this out in the field. I forgot to turn the GPS off, so it like bounced over to like where I'm at. So let's go back to my default map extent. So you can see here where I've got that information. So this is what the user is going to see. So it's fairly simple to use. It's got a pretty simple user interface. I mean, I've got a list of the layers. In this case, I only have one. I've got a little measure tool. If I wanted to measure things, I could change my base map if I wanted. I could put imagery in there instead of streets. Of course, you can publish your own base maps if you so desire. Let's see. I can go in here and like take a look and see what's there. I can say, hey, do I want to collect a new location here? Do I need directions to that point? Do I want to go in and actually look at an existing structure to say, okay, here's the structure we've got here. Yep, here's all that information about it. We're here. We're going to do some inspections. So this is a case where I'd want to go in here and actually edit that feature. So this is where I'd be able to go in and make these changes. Okay, so like you can see, like I put in here like the last editor, and I got in notes there that's been deprecated. What does that mean? Well, what I've done is I've gotten rid of that because I'm going to track that automatically. So it's going to put like mscott_2 just as the editor if any edits are changed in here. So maybe I'm out in the field. I'm like, hey, someone in the office put that grade type in wrong. So maybe I want to change that, or we're in here looking at that, and there's some other information in here that I might want to change about, like who did the collection, or where was it at, or better yet, I want to go in and take a picture. So I want to say I'm going to go in here and add like a new photograph, and I can choose that from my library. I've got like this library of Esri photos that I've got. So over here. And so there's like that picture, that clogged catch basin, so we'll go ahead and like add that in. So maybe we want to take like some before and after pictures and say done and update. Okay, so in this workflow, we're working online. Okay, so this is live. I'm live connected. I've either got like a Wi-Fi connection or I've got like a 3 or 4G connection, so that all works great. Okay, but what if I want to take that offline? What if I want to say, hey, I want to be able to work with this offline? So I hit that little cloud button on the right, and that's going to let me set this up. It's going to say, hey, I've got a base map that I've already created for another application. Do you want me to use that? Or do you want to use like an existing one? All right, so maybe instead of the topo map, I'd like to use that imagery map. Okay, and then I want to choose my work area. Okay, so that's like one that I already did. This is one I did earlier for this public works application I had for this golf course in Delaware. Okay, so I'd already set that up, and I mean, you can decide how you want that to work. You can like choose your work area. I could go back and use one of the ones that I've already got. I could use like a brand new one that I've already downloaded to my device. So in this case, it's going to show me the whole base map as well as my data. Now maybe I only want to do a small subset of this information. I don't want to do everything. I'm going to zoom in here and say I'm going to send this field crew out, and they're going to do some offline because they got bad connection, or I'm sending them out with an iPad that doesn't have any connection on it, doesn't have 3 or 4G. So I'm going to say, all right, this is going to be my work area. So I define that. And then I have to define the map detail, like how close do I want them to be able to zoom in? Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, I want them to be able to zoom in down to like the building scale, and then say go ahead and download that. So what it's going to do is it's going to take all of the information about the base map and all of the features in that specific area, and it's going to download it to my device. Okay, so my iPad now is going to receive the topo map and the features and load those up onto my device. And now I can take that out in the field, and I don't have to have connectivity. All right, it's going to have all those features on there, and it's going to have all of that base map information. And you can go pretty big. And one of the questions I usually get is like, how much imagery can I put on my iPad? And it's like, well, that depends on how much storage you have. So you could have a lot of storage. This iPad here's got like 64 gig, and it's about, I think it's about half full with like apps and data. I did something for the city of Syracuse a couple weeks ago, and we were able to pull like about a quarter of the imagery they had for the whole city, as well as all the information about manholes. They're doing manhole inspections. They're actually like painting up the manholes and then going back out and catching rim elevations on it. Okay, so we easily were able to fit that on. I think that the total of all that data was like less than a gig. It really wasn't all that big. So you can actually fit a surprising amount of base map information on here. Okay, so now this is on the device. So when I open this up now, I'm going to get a different experience. So like before, when I opened it up, it immediately like went right to my GPS location. Well, now since I'm using an offline map, it's just going to, by default, it's going to say, well, you know, I guess I don't have any connectivity, so we're not going to do that. You can see I've only got the area of interest that I downloaded to the device, and then, you know, this is the information that I can get. And I can go in here and say, oh, okay, like, you know, so here's this catch basin. You know, maybe we're going to go out and we're going to collect a rim elevation on that. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that, change that surface elevation, and I'm just going to say that's like going to be 102.34. So we've gone ahead and collected that. Maybe put some comments in as well. Let's see, say like no clean out needed. This would be a great place for me to make a domain, you know, maybe like some comments and like different categorizations that I could have in there. This is a catch basin, and I say, okay, update. Now I hit the update button, and what happens? So now you see I get this little message that says it's stored in the device. Okay, so what does that mean? You know, it means that I've gone ahead and I've stored that information. It's only on the device. It has not been automatically percolated up through ArcGIS Online to my server, or through ArcGIS Online to my ArcGIS Online feature service. Okay, I could also go in here and like add, you know, add like a new thing in. Say add, you know, we're looking on the map. It's like, hey, here's a catch basin that nobody caught. You know, nobody collected this catch basin. Don't know why. You know, it's out here in the field, and you know, maybe I'd want to go in and collect that data. You know, obviously I'd want to fill that in a little more. Maybe take a picture of it, or maybe make some notes about where it is and stuff like that. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the map. So I go back to the map, and you can see now how I've got some feedback, and the feedback says, hey, you know, look at this. You've got two features that need to be uploaded to your server. So now I come back to the office, or I come back to like where I have connectivity. So maybe it's just like in one part of the city I don't have connectivity, or I'm out doing like a county road, and I'm collecting information about guardrails, and I've got no connection. But then on the way back to the office, I pick up a 4G signal. I'm like, hey, this is awesome. You know, now I can like immediately send that, and I just hit that little sync button. And what it does is it goes through and says, okay, you know, here's two new features that were picked up, or here's a new feature that was picked up, and then one that was edited. And then what I can do is I can just go ahead and say, you know, sync that back up to my server or to our online or wherever the data is stored. And it's going to go ahead and synchronize that data. It's going to let me know the last time it was synced. So that's good. That might be good back in the office for them to know, you know, when the last sync was done, or if there's any outstanding features that need to be synced, you know, so they can see that. And then that goes ahead and goes through with it. Right. So you can see how that all works. It's, you know, it's fairly straightforward. You know, you take the map offline, and then you go ahead and you set it up. Now, one of the things that has been asked, you know, often is, what if I want to now I want to bring that map back online? Okay, and the key to that is you hit this button over here that says on device, and then I go up here and I'd say, you know, I'm going to manage that, and what I want to do is I want to remove it. So that's just going to say, hey, I'm going to remove this from the device. It doesn't mean I'm removing data from the server. I'm not removing data from ArcGIS Online if I'm storing it there. It just means I'm taking the offline map off the device, so it's no longer available to edit those specific features. Okay, so that's, you know, that's just like a management thing. I mean, you can leave it there. It's, you know, that's there's not a problem there. You can leave that on there. You could have like 4 or 5 maps all set up for different parts of the town for projects, and the projects are over, inspection projects over, go into the device and delete that to free up space, especially if you're pulling down a lot of imagery. Okay, so you can see how that works. And then if I don't want to do that, I can just say, all right, that's fine, I'm done. I'm going to go back and just look at all my stuff. Right. So that's pretty much the run through. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. There's not like a whole lot of management and setup you have to do to make this work. We've got some really good docs and information on this online. On how to do this, how to download the data to your device. The help is pretty extensive. What I can do is I can make a PDF of this PowerPoint and make sure it gets back to like all the people that are on the call. That way you guys don't have to like copy all these links down. It'd be kind of silly. Okay, but you know we've got some really good docs on here on how to do this and you know how to make it all work. As was mentioned before, this all started at 10.2.2. I'm actually got 10.3.1 installed here on my desktop, and I'm heading out to Redlands in a couple of weeks to do some testing on 10.4. So in 10.4 we're supposed to have some additional things, especially if you're using server and your own hosted on your own infrastructure, to move things back and forth. So that's going to be kind of cool. We've also got a video on this. So like what I've just been doing, the folks out in Redlands on the team, Jeff Shaner and his guys, last year they did this live training seminar, and I went and watched it to see if there was like anything on here that was like funky or weird or you know was like out of date information. I think it's still really solid. So again, I'll get these links to you, but you can just find this on our education page on I think it's training.esri.com, and this is a recording and another PowerPoint presentation by the guys out in Redlands. On this whole you know offline data collection thing. So that's like another good resource. If you're not signed up to get like automatic notifications of when these live training seminars are on, you should really do that because they're free, and we run them like once a month more or less, and they're just some great ways to get information about like upcoming technology, existing technology. So I really like that. So like I said, you can go to training.esri.com and just look for those live training seminars. And again, I'm always plugging the online documentation. They put a lot of work into it, and we add more stuff all the time. Like they've added in like videos to show like, okay, this is how you do this, and they've put a lot of time into the apps. So the online docs for apps I think are really good. So that's all I had for the presentation. That actually came out within the minute of the 45 minutes I wanted to take up because I wanted to be able to take a look at some of the questions. So let me go back to the meeting space. And let's pop out the question box, see if I can figure out how to do this. Okay, cool. Okay, will the session be recorded? I didn't record it. I'm actually at a location where I can't record it. But I think Bob says it's going to be recorded. Awesome. Cool. Okay, that makes it easier on me. Thank you, Bob. And in addition, I'll provide the PowerPoint, and like I said, it's got the links in there for that other online one that the folks out in Redlands did. We got another question. It says, does the integration have to be with online or can be conjunction with Portal? And absolutely, yep, can be federated with Portal, no problem. Yeah, like I said, you know, Collector is pretty much it doesn't really care where the stuff comes from. It can be in Portal, it can be in online, it can be through server, it could be a version geodatabase in the server, which is awesome. You know, then you could like have multiple versions, one for each field crew, and then you'd easily be able to like bring that stuff back in. So it's totally integrated with the whole ArcGIS platform. How does that handle update collision if more than one collector updates attributes in the same record? That's going to be the last person that edits wins, and that's if you're either doing it on ArcGIS Online or you're using a non-versioned geodatabase. So the way to get around that is for the source of the data to be in a version geodatabase where each field crew has their own version that they edit on, and then when you do the version reconcile on using server, then you can get the collision detection, the conflict resolution that the ArcGIS for server administrator has to go through. So that's that's the classic way to address that, and that's when you have server, you have the best of breed solution. You have that hybrid solution where you start to get into situations where you've got multiple field crews, you could possibly have a conflict. Now you want to use a version geodatabase hosted on server and not use an ArcGIS Online service. Would a portal instance be an Amazon cloud server? Portal can run on an Amazon instance in the cloud. That is possible, or Portal can run on an instance that runs on your own infrastructure on site. So that it can be either one. We've had a lot of success using Amazon instance or Azure. We're going to support that now, the Microsoft Azure cloud, with putting server instances up there, and they perform exceptionally well. It's really, that's been a really good experience. In fact, I have server installed on my laptop, and I'll use it for demonstrations, but more often than not, I'll use that Amazon instance because I find it to be extremely reliable. In fact, the studies and metrics that we have show that the uptime for Amazon cloud services is better than on-premise. So it's I think that's a great solution. So the portal instance can be definitely can be on the cloud server, or it can be on-premise. Okay, the last one is the integration with an external GNS receiver like the Trimble R1 seamless and behind the scenes? I can't answer that question definitively. Like I said, I'm going to see this in a couple of weeks. I've watched a video on it. It looks really promising. To me, it looked like it was completely behind the scenes. You connect. What you do is the Trimble software and the app runs on the device, so like on your iPad. And what it does is it improves the GPS location that the device is handing out. And then Collector is just going to collect the the location from the GPS on the device, on the iPad or the iPhone. So it's just inheriting what the Trimble unit has already done, which is to improve the GPS quality on the device. So it looks to me like it's totally seamless and behind the scenes. But like I said, I'm gonna go see this in a couple of weeks. We have a couple of business partners that are really strong with Trimble, and I'd be more than happy to connect anybody up with one of them. Or you can find them on our partner portal. But when I get more information on that, I can try to communicate that back. Okay, so anyone that has so like Michael, you asked that question. If you can just pop me an email, and I'll follow up with you in a couple of weeks and tell you what I saw. So I think that's all the questions.
Yep.
I don't know if there's any wrap-up that needs to be done on.
Thanks, Mark. No, I think that is all the questions. So thanks again for taking the time to present this. Very good presentation. I think a lot of us are taking advantage of what Collector has to offer. Just a reminder, you can contact us via the MAGTUG website, as Janelle mentioned in the beginning, and you'll find information about our upcoming events. But if there are no other questions, I think we can wrap this up. As Mark mentioned, this has been recorded and will be posted on the website when we're done. So thanks, Mark, and thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks, guys.
See ya.